So this is my Rabbit R1. I have put CypherOS on it, and I'm going to take you through a day using it as my main phone. So the Rabbit R1 is a compact AI assistant made by Teenage Engineering and Rabbit Inc. It has 4 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage, and it can run Android if you flash a custom ROM to it, which I have done. It is CypherOS, and it has all the regular Android apps, like all of them, just on a very tiny screen. So while I'm at work, I can use Google Gemini and the Google Suite like Google Keep, which I use for notes, Google Docs, Google Drive, and all that. But honestly, the experience isn't really that enjoyable. I really don't like Google Gemini. Google Keep notes and docs, those are all fine, but Google Gemini has like no memory. It totally sucks. It's terrible at brainstorming. Reading emails on a device like this is not really fun. It's just very small. Honestly, I really see why RabbitOS is the way that it is, because even though this experience is better optimized than regular Android for this device, it's still not as good as the regular Rabbit software. Using it for Google Maps navigation is actually pretty decent because the speaker is so loud. It's very easy to hear, and the screen's just big enough that it's visible, and because it has these nice flat sides, it can kind of sit like flat-ish on anything. I'm not going to try to show that anymore. I don't give a shit. Really quick, let's also go over the camera quality. They're not quality at all. So don't even worry about that. You won't be using the cameras on these things for really anything. Maybe document scanning. Might be okay for that. So in terms of like entertainment, such as YouTube and Spotify, Spotify works fine. The speakers on this thing are okay. They sound surprisingly good at lower volumes, but they get very tinny at louder volumes. The benefit is that they do get very, very loud for the size of the device. Actually, they're just loud for any device. They're very loud speakers. But obviously, as you can imagine, YouTube on such a small screen, it's not that it's not doable, and in a way it almost is kind of enjoyable, but it's not a large screen. It is hard to make things out, but I do kind of have fun just playing YouTube videos on it while I'm cooking or whatever. If what I'm watching is more focused on the audio, then it's a fine experience like that. And battery life is surprisingly good. I get like 10 hours of screen on time on this thing when I'm using it pretty heavily. So I guess for standby, you'll get over a week. Not bad for that, but it really isn't the best device to consume media with. And then let's just go over my final thoughts on the device, really. I'm putting it back to RabbitOS. I don't like CypherOS on it. I don't think it makes a good phone. The battery life is surprisingly decent. I do get a full day's use out of it, but that is only because I'm hardly using it during that full day. It's just not as enjoyable to use as a regular phone, and it's not as useful without the RabbitOS on it, even though everyone says that RabbitOS is just Android when it's very clearly not. Like, at the very least, guys, you have to admit that it's a very involved skin of Android. But the worst part of this whole experiment has been Google Gemini. I did get the free trial of the Google Gemini Pro features. I didn't try any of the video creation features. I'll still do a video on that. But Google Gemini as a whole sucks. I like ChatGPT way better. That's what Rabbit uses. Google Gemini is no good for brainstorming. I'd say it's probably better for information gathering, like it's faster, but it's just no good for brainstorming. It has no memory. There's so many things I can't do with it. It won't track my medications no matter how hard I try, like my caffeine and all that. The worst part of this has been Google Gemini, and I really thought I would like Google Gemini because, you know, Google talks a big game about how great it is, and it is great for lots of applications, just not what I use my AI things for. So overall, I will be putting this back to RabbitOS probably pretty soon. I might wait for the next update. Drop a like and subscribe.